So this is history here. French taking over USA and Great Britain at the same time. Absolutely outstanding. Loving it. So everyone, that's the first time I'm talking to you. I don't know who's getting involved, but I'm sure you've had a lot of fun with my colleagues. And we're here this morning with the CCC winner, Michel Lannes from France. Bon, on va reposer les mêmes questions. Hein. Ça va être assez facile. Donc Michel, tu gagnes la CCC, une expérience de malade. Comment t'as vécu ça, comment ça s'est passé, et puis voilà, de l'intérieur.
Eh bien, de l'intérieur, c'est vrai que c'est une course dont je rêvais depuis vachement longtemps. Donc déjà être au départ et puis quand tu te sens dès les premiers kilomètres en bonne forme, ça te booste. Après de là à penser à la victoire, il m'a fallu attendre vraiment les tout derniers kilomètres pour vraiment y penser. Tellement déjà tu peux pas vendre la peau de l'ours et puis surtout ça paraît surréaliste quoi. Pour moi, gagner la CCC c'était un peu surréaliste donc ouais, tout ça réuni, ça fait une journée exceptionnelle. Ouais.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, that was the race that he's been looking at for a long time now, and when he got involved and felt fresh in the first part of the race, he was pretty excited and thought that things could happen. He was indeed leading the entire race. But only allowed himself to think about the victory in the very last kilometers because the Japanese runner was hot on his heels until the last descent. But again, like this seems completely unreal to him because he basically had an amazing day, but still this race was a very very high on his list, and he's crossed off that list pretty well because he just took the best possible spot. Donc du coup, Michel, voilà, on va reparler un peu de ta préparation phénoménale.
Des mois de préparation
pour cette course. Voilà, comment ça s'est passé?
Eh bien, préparation de dernière minute, en fait, ça fait vraiment... si on regarde le calendrier, ça fait 3 semaines que j'ai repris à courir. Avec avant une blessure depuis le 27 mai, donc 3 semaines que j'ai repris à courir. Au bout d'une semaine, je me fais une grosse entorse de la cheville. J'attends quelques jours, 3-4 jours sans courir. Et après, en fait, j'ai fait un énorme bloc de travail. J'ai fait 3 fois 40 bornes en 3 jours. Tu vois, un énorme bloc de travail à une semaine de la course, avec un gros coup de fatigue. Et derrière, en fait, j'ai eu, je pense, une surcompensation qui est arrivée pile poil hier, quoi, hein, on va dire. Mais le truc...
timing parfait, quoi.
Enfin, j'y pipe rien à tout ça, mais c'était fait à l'arrache et puis c'est passé à travers, quoi, on va dire.
Okay, so yeah, basically the preparation for this race was completely unconventional because he had an injury that kept him away from running for a long time until mid-July, and then he started running again, but twisted his ankle. So that was another injury that came on top of this. So he really lacked the volume, but he did a solid block with 4 times 40K in 3 days, so back-to-back runs. Within a week from the race, and then he believes that he got really tired after that, and then the overcompensation showed up right on race day, and that was perfect timing. So he doesn't really exactly get how things unfold, but the bottom line is it worked, and he's nailed it. Donc voilà, Michel, est-ce qu'il y a d'autres choses que tu voudrais dire, partager avec une audience anglophone, ou des choses que tu as partagées avec Depa et pas avec nous et qui seraient...
Putain, le dire en anglais après tu parles, tu m'as tué là. Je dis plus rien en anglais. Non, je rigole.
Mais non.
Non, mais après, qu'est-ce que je peux dire de plus? Yeah, thank you very much for everybody to follow me all along the race, and on the finish line, this moment was really incredible. I think for a runner, it's a moment you can live once in your life,
yeah.
and and even this morning I can't really imagine and realize what happened yesterday, and it's quite unbelievable for the moment. But yesterday it was really, really incredible. This moment, the finish line was, I think, my best moment as a runner.
Yeah, we saw the images again on the replay of the CCC, and you coming into Chamonix, pretty much king of Chamonix. Everybody was here, a lot of people cheering on, everybody excited also to see a French runner. I mean, people know you here. So people got even more excited and supportive of that thing, and we could see it on your face, like you were in awe, and like, is this really happening
What
to me?
happened?
Yes, exactly. So no, again, congratulations. We see the images of you here going up the climb towards the aid station in Champelac. You had 6 kilometers to go, and you were exactly halfway. Donc voilà, là, t'étais à la mi-course en direction de Champais. Et how were you feeling at this point? And we see you looking back.
Yeah, but at this moment it was really fresh, and hopefully it's the first part of the race, and so you have to be very, very soft before Champex, because after that it's very complicated if you're very tired. So I was really surprised to be first and alone before Champex. I didn't want that when I thought about the race a few days before, but it was like that, and so I didn't really know what to do, but I just keep on running. Yeah, slowly.
You were feeling good. You were looking good. You were. I mean, when we're looking at you and then looking at the other runners, you were definitely much faster and looked much stronger and fresher.
But in ultra tri, everything can change in few kilometers. So here I was very good. After that, 5 or 10 kilometers after, I was very tired. After everything changed, so it's the.
Yeah, you have a lot of ups and downs.
Yes.
What's the worst down that you have had?
The worst moment was in Bovine. So now, what's the name? The really name of the? Yes, Bovine, between Champex and La Giette. In La Giette, yes, I didn't realize, but I wasn't very fast. And when I saw the
split, the times,
the times, everybody come back, and I didn't understand what happened, but I wasn't fast.
Yeah, well, that's also sometimes the problem of leading the race.
Yes.
So you can't compare with anything, and you go into your rhythm, and even if you don't feel necessarily bad, you potentially slow down, and if there's nobody, a time, someone on the side of the trail telling you the times between you and the back of the pack, it gets harder. So you didn't actually feel bad, but you slow down.
Yeah, but after that, the last part of the race, the uphill for Tête-au-Vent.
Towards Tête-au-Vent, the very last big climb.
The last big climb was very difficult because I knew I had 20 minutes gap with the second place. And maybe I thought, I think it smells good, and it was a mistake because I was too much slow, and after that I had to push and push.
Yeah, exactly.
So the last downhill.
That's what we were thinking, because we saw we see you crossing the finish line here, and we saw the split times, and we were like, okay, well, I think Michel's got it. He's got 12 minutes lead on the Japanese runner. It's fine. And then next information we get is like, it's like 5, or like, I think it was even 4 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit. So what's happening? So then the question was, are you going to make it to La Flégère ahead of him? And if that was the case, we all knew that you were running faster downhill. And and then potentially, like, if you were getting first there were bigger chances to see you there, because we didn't know if you had slowed down, if you had a problem, or if he was just running so fast and catching you. But eventually, we got the information. You passing through La Flégère, you still have 4 or 5 minutes on him, and then that was it. That was in the bag.
Yeah, but the last downhill, yes, I was afraid to have problem with my muscles.
Yeah.
And but when I was in La Flégère, I saw him behind me, maybe 4 minutes behind. He told me I cannot be second. So close to Chamonix.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
not possible.
I cannot lose this first
I
place.
have to push and don't think about anything.
Okay.
Forget your legs, forget the pain, and go because.
So then, yeah, you go in your zone and you just
Yeah.
dig deep and
I
you know.
pushed so fast in the last downhill and so
And you won.
yeah. Yeah.
And you won.
So
Can I ask a question? I asked everyone the same question.
yeah.
Do you have a finisher strategy? So when you come into the finish line,
Yeah.
you already have a pre-prepared strategy about what you're going to do.
In the last meter? No. No.
You had your, at the finish line, did you have your family?
Yes. Yeah, because I knew that my daughter would be here. But
You do have a finisher strategy. You just don't realize.
yeah, that for sure. But after I was so happy, but I didn't really understand, and I told me, but why everybody is here for me? It's hard to understand and to accept.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, like, yes, some runners go and visualize, I'm gonna win this race. You were like, well, I'd like to win this race, but I don't know if it's gonna happen. And yeah, like when you got to Chamonix, there was no plan. It was just like, this is happening.
Yes. Oh shit. It's true.
Yeah,
It's real.
and I think it's even greater when you don't expect it. I mean, this is so much better. I mean, we could really see the emotion on your face and like sharing this finish line with the crowd, with all of us, even like the public, the audience, the organization, and even all of us behind the finish line. We all had the chills, and it's like, yes, Michel's got it, and he's won this race.
Yeah.
Look at this. It's like, is this really happening?
Yes. It's exactly that.
Yeah, amazing images, really. Okay, well, thanks a lot for coming, and
Thanks.
you ended up speaking English very well.
Oh,
So I'm sure that the audience was actually. Oh, I totally planned that. So yeah, we're gonna wrap it up here, and I'm gonna leave the spot back to its owners.